Okay, so tell us again, 1971, you came with your husband, your new husband, to Washington. You moved to Tiber Island. He's working in the Labor Department,
Yep.
Minority Business Administration. And your work when you came?
I wasn't working for a while. I decided I was married, so I wouldn't work. But I got a job with the Howard University.
Howard University,
Medical school.
medical school.
And I was teaching residents how to do group therapy.
And you did that for how many years?
I don't know.
A few.
Yeah, a few.
Okay. And then you said
Then I
you
decided to go for a doctorate
at Catholic,
at Catholic
University
University.
through the middle of the 70s or so. And your doctorate in social work
And education.
and education. Was Catholic University a good school
Yeah.
at the time? Yeah. Interesting classes, professors.
Interesting people.
Good. And then you finished and received your doctorate in what year?
1980.
1980. And then you began teaching at the University of the District of Columbia
Yeah, I had taught sort of part-time for them, but then I went on full-time.
in the School of Social Work. And you were teaching group?
No, I was
Primarily?
teaching the range of courses that you teach at a bachelor degree level. You teach human behavior, social environment things. You teach social policy, social welfare policy. It's a BA, it's an undergraduate course, and you also place students in some field placements, not for long, for a day or two. I mean, for 1 day a week, something like that. But they have to take the courses that are offered in the social work department.
Tell us about the University of the District of Columbia. What kind of school was it then?
Well, it had just started. It really was created to fulfill the mission of the historically black colleges and to reach out to people here in D.C. that didn't get a chance to go to these big colleges like, where is it? What do I have here? Georgetown, GW. And so its tuition was quite low, and it had many evening classes so that working people could come and matriculate. And it really wanted to reach the people that didn't get the opportunities to get into a regular college career. So one of the things to me that was very interesting about it, and that's why I chose to work there over working at Howard, I had my mission. My mission was to work with people who wanted to get an education now, had not had an opportunity. And I was delighted because many were people who had been out in the field working, not in social work, but they had jobs and they had to support families and things like that. But they were excellent students because they wanted that degree. And they did things with it, got jobs that were different and so forth. So I enjoyed working with them all. And when they see me today, some of them call me, they say, "Oh, you were tough." But they were very good. They were wonderful.
What year did you retire from UDC?
92.
92. Oh, you taught there for a long time.
Well,
10 years.
10 years, 10, 11 years.
Good.
No.
During those years in 1971, when would you say that you became actively involved in the community here in the Southwest?
Almost immediately. It's really interesting. I don't know the year, but I know at one point there was a young man that wanted to start something for youth, and we were going to rent a warehouse over there on South Capitol for a youth center, and we got started with it. I don't know what happened to it. It seems we got started with it, and then it either petered out, or something came along and messed up that plan. But I began, right away we were getting involved in something going on in the community. I think that the Southwest Neighborhood Assembly was active then, and I went to the meetings to see what was going on in the community. And I'm not sure the date that I did this, but then I joined the Youth Activities Task Force because they had a program. They decided they would provide jobs for youth and prepare them to take those jobs during the summer. And we started really what I would call the first youth employment program in the summer before the mayor took it over. And what's his name? They started under Barry, finally started a program for youth. But we had begun that. And we used to have sessions to prepare them for the job. We also had sessions to handle checks and what to do with them and things like that. It was a very gratifying kind of thing. And we did find jobs. We found jobs for kids.
Sorry?
We found the jobs. We had people in the community who would hire them, the people outside the community. The Food and Friends was one of the places that would hire. You know, we paid them, actually. We had some money, I guess we paid them. I forgot how we got the money. But, you know, we did do quite a good job with it. Then the mayor's program came along, and so we gave up that part of it because he then had all these things going to help them. We have continued, you know, I've been in that program since then and through all the chairs, and I was chair person. And another time, I don't know when I was elected to be the president of the Southwest Neighborhood Assembly. Must have been in the 80s. And that was the time when also housing was an issue. We had a lot of meetings about housing, and they were going to do away with Syphax School. And we got a plan going to really have that taken over by a company that would build housing that people could afford and would also save the main building because it's a historical building.
You mean the school was already closed by then?
No, it got closed. It wasn't closed when I came here, but it was closed after. I don't remember the exact date, but if I was active in the 80s, like, you know, time goes, and I'm really kind of hazy about time.
I think I heard it closed in 92.
Okay.
Didn't we hear that, gentlemen? When your Syphax school closed?
Do you remember?
I think it was 1992.
Okay.
Syphax. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So then that was when I was president of the Southwest Neighborhood Assembly, 89, 90, something like that. And
How many terms did you serve as president?
2. I think you get elected for a year.
You mean consecutively, right
yeah,
there?
consecutively.
I thought you were the president when I came here in 96.
Was
no?
I don't think
you
so.
were. I thought you were. Or maybe you had been pointed out to me as somebody who had been
Yeah,
president.
yeah.
Did you have any
'Cause
involvement with the Southwest Community House?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do with them?
We didn't do anything with them. I would supply them with things that they could sell because they had that room of things that help people have emergencies. We didn't work directly with them, except maybe we did. We might have even placed a student there during the summer. Mm-hmm. Yes, we probably did. Mm-hmm. So we found places within the community where students could have a summer job. We went to the merchants, we went to the agencies, and then we found some outside because we sent kids to the greenhouse down, you know what, I call it the greenhouse, Green Door, on 16th Street. You know, we found jobs all over. We had them with the law offices. What's the name? Blossom helped us. Mm-hmm. Put them in that law office
Blossom
she worked
Mayfield.
in. Yeah. So we had a number of people working with us very actively for youth. Mm-hmm. So, but we were very proud of the fact that we got the corporation to build housing that was going to be affordable on that land, and to save the building, the main school building.
Syphax.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That took quite a long time.
Mm-hmm. It took a long time to get built.
A long time to get it built.
Yeah.
Because those houses have only been completed for the 2 years or so.
Isn't that no?
So that
really?
was-
Is that all? Wow.
Well,
We don't. Yeah.
Around 2004.
It took them a long time. I don't understand that. I don't know, because I was out of the picture then. But I'm trying to remember the name of the company. I don't right now.
What was the community discussion about the closing of Syphax?
Oh,
Was there a lot of resistance? Public meetings?
probably, but
No effective major outcry?
no.
The population there had just simply dwindled?
I don't know. The housing the housing is still there now.
I mean, when the school was still open.
Yeah, the population had dwindled.
People felt very strongly about Syphax School.
Yeah, they did.
Of all the schools in Southwest, I hear more passionate reference to Syphax than any other school.
Right. Really? Well, it's been, it has been there for years. It had it was named after a well-established family in this community and in Virginia. And it was a nice school. I don't remember, I'm trying to remember why they wanted to close it.
Do you remember the Syphax family?
I've met them.
What do you know about them?
Well, they were always, like one of them they had a photographic business, the Syphax brothers. They had a photographic business down on some Georgia Avenue. Many of them lived in Virginia, so they were kind of part of the people that belonged to the fraternities and sororities kind of thing. But they were always interested in the community. Evelyn Syphax was a name person.
Whoever the school was named after, wasn't that person
Well, that was a father, wasn't it? Oh.
I'm wondering if they weren't Syphaxes involved in the settling of the city, a couple hundred years ago.
It could be.
I got the impression that it goes way back.
They're still in Virginia. Maybe you could get hold of some of them.
How did you meet the family?
I didn't meet the family. I met one or two people of
You met
it.
two people
Yeah,
of the family.
Yeah. I probably was at some affair, social affair.
Celebrating.
They weren't, yeah. Boy, it's really odd. There's so much history that you forget how things happened. But, because that was a big brouhaha for us a while there. And I guess we tried to save it because we went down and talked to the zoning commission, and we were working away at that. And
In 1971, when you first came here, the community was still being finished, right? They were still building things that had been intended for as part of the urban renewal project.
I thought that was all done.
Was it?
Yeah.
Everything was done. The mall was up, because it took a long time to build the mall before it really opened as it did, as you remember.
Oh, I remember the EPA was there, or they moved in shortly afterwards. EPA was very much a presence for a long time. Now, they may not have been there when I first came, I'm not sure. But EPA had moved into the buildings.
Yeah.
Could be that they were still completing it. You could be right. Have you had anybody able to tell you about that?
It's hard to pinpoint the years. We're going to have to really look at the records, I
Yeah.
suppose, to get all of that down. But
Yeah.
just people's recollections.
Yeah.
This building was completed in 1965, and this was one of the first
Oh.
to be finished. So the mall didn't go up until the late 60s. If this was in swing by the time you got here in 1971, it hadn't been open very long.
No, I guess not then.
No.
I didn't know that.
They had built the Greenleaf, James Creek, and Syphax communities very early on. And that was some of the first housing to have been finished. And then later came
Potomac?
the properties over here, G Street, Capitol Park.
Oh.
The
Really? Because
Yeah.
Capitol Park's been there a longer time
Capitol Park
than
has been-
us, and we supposedly, my husband moved into Tiber Island in '65.
But we've heard that Greenleaf, for example, was in place in the very early 60s.
Really?
Yeah. and then, everything else came
Because the
along.
promise was that people would be able to move back here into the
Yeah.
community.
They had not finished Harbor Square
No?
by the time that, no, the properties on the waterfront were not up before they had finished these projects.
Really?
Right.
That's an interesting fact.
Right. What?
No, because, well, go ahead, yeah.
Sorry.
There were people in Capitol Park who were working, like I knew the Alexanders, they were always trying to do things with girls and take them to places, and programs like the place up in Virginia, the famous entertainment park. What is that called? Anyway, she did a lot. There were things going on. It was I thought it was quite an active community, and people were interested in doing doing things. And the ANC was very active, ANC 4, and had a wonderful guy who always rode a bicycle, who was the chair of him. Did you ever?
Gottlieb Simon.
Gottlieb, yeah. Gottlieb was, and so there was a lot of interaction with government, because we had to go fight for things. We had to go before the zoning commission. We had to go talk to the regulation people and so forth. There was a lot of movement that then died down as things, I guess, got more and more settled. But I felt it was a very active community, and I felt very involved.
The issues that lingered as a result of the urban renewal project, and some of the anger and resentment and frustration that many of the residents experienced there, was that still festering in 1971, would you say?
I wouldn't be surprised.
But
There
it
was
wasn't-
anger, but I don't know. You see, I don't know whether the people who moved into Greenleaf and so were the ones who had lived here. The people who lived here and got removed didn't have a chance to get back in here.
Right,
I
that was
think.
part of the problem.
Yeah,
Right.
that was where the anger was. And like Joseph Gilbert was one of the few, and one of 2 or 3 that ever got back into the community.
Yeah, there were a good many people who were part of the old neighborhood
Yeah, they didn't get back.
who never came back. Many of them were so poor. I mean, if you look at the photographs of the occupants of the alley dwellings, for example, some of the worst housing by physical condition that had been replaced. Many of those folks.
No, everybody kind of knew that after a while, that those people never got back here. That it had been a farce to tell them that we're building new houses and we will let you back, you'll be back. That's why there was a lot of anger about that, urban removal. We call it urban removal, not
Right.
renewal.
Right, removal.
Yeah.
What were would you say, were the really rewarding public activities, community rituals? We've heard about a parade that happened. We've heard about, we're going to hear about the art festival that happened down
That
on
was
the
one of
waterfront.
our favorite.
Well, tell us some of those things that you remember.
Well, the art festival really was one of our prizes. We thought it was great. People could come out on the whole walk along the waterfront and display their works. And the children, Mary Ann Baylor was one of the ladies that had the kids doing dancing in the circle down there, further down on the waterfront. The merchants supported it. We had, like I gave a bike away that way. It was just wonderfully involving with people, and it got spoiled, and we felt, when the mayor decided to make that a very commercial activity. And so they brought in, then they had all these people who were really commercially selling things,
Was this Mayor Barry you're talking
Yep,
about?
yep. He sort of spoiled the whole thing, because suddenly he tried to have a fair every
year.
spring, yeah. But it turned commercial, totally commercial.
It was
wasn't
in the spring of
commercial
the year?
before. Mhm.
How many years did it happen, do you know,
For him or for us?
for you?
Oh, it went on quite a while. In fact, see, don't ask me years because I don't know. But I know it
Just
was
roughly.
here, and I got involved in it. And I know when my mother and father came to visit me, I had my mother's artwork. I've set them up to have a show on the thing, and she sold some of her work. I mean, it was, it was just sort of, they were just delighted. You could do things like that, and we could still do it. The thing that also happens is that, along 4th Street, we have these yard sales now,
Yes.
and that's kind of brings people out together. There's not too much that brings people out, and to interact with each other, except for things like a yard sale, the one at St. Augustine's Yard, the one on 4th Street. When we had the festival, because the kids were involved, we had even dancing over here on this plaza. On that plaza, we had the kids dancing with Mary Ann Bailey's group. There were certain people that took active role with the children, and they had dance classes down in the basement of St. Augustine's for the youth. There were things going on, but it depended on the people and willingness and involvement. As we get more people that are not involved, there's less, or they're not involved in the same way. Because right now, our youth activities task force and the scholarship committee are the main hanger-oners of what we felt the Southwest Neighborhood Assembly should be doing, could do. And
The Youth Task Force and the Scholarship Fund.
yeah, because there are youth that can get some scholarship money to help them go to college from this neighborhood. And then the Youth Task Force, yes.
So y'all help kids
Yes,
in the neighborhood get scholarships?
yes. It's called the Scholarship Committee. You want a scholarship to go to where? College? Good. Okay, we'll get the information to him. Remind me.
He's got a couple more years yet before he's ready.
Yeah, but you just 3. Oh, well, keep working at it. You too? Are you ready?
Oh, yes, I am ready.
Did you apply for a scholarship yet?
Yeah.
Did,
I had a full scholarship at Morgan State University, but I lost it
how did you do that?
because of something that happened in school at the end of the year, a little confrontation.
Oh,
But I'm going back to high school this year, then I'm gonna get it back.
oh, really? You can go back to high school? Why do you have to go back to high school?
Because I just graduated. I got
Oh, I thought it was this college you got kicked out of. No, it was high school. Okay, good. Okay, never give up.
The art,
Festival,
what was it? What did you call it? An art show?
Southwest Art Festival.
Art festival?
Southwest Art Festival.
And that went for a few years, and then the mayor liked what he saw, and then
That
he-
went for quite a few years. That was our thing. It was going on quite a while.
and the mayor ostensibly wanted to help and support.
Nah, he just wanted to do something to jazz up the waterfront.
So what did
You know, what
happened?
you always run into is the commercialism. And so they did. They had lots of booths and lots of junk to sell and art. And then that faded. But it wasn't, see, it was all these people from other places. It wasn't the community. When we had it, it was people from the community that had their booths, did the teaching, had the kids involved. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. As I understand it, the mayor's slant on this was to expand it and take it all down the waterfront toward Georgetown.
Really?
It,
I don't know that.
it wasn't. Well, I mean, after it was just a Southwest thing, it became the mayor's and a city thing.
Yeah, city thing.
And then he brought in different people who had no connection to the
In
community.
Southwest, right.
How did that strangle the Southwest Festival?
I don't know, but we stopped doing it. We stopped doing it. There wasn't much point in our, I guess, putting that kind of effort into something that was no longer ours. I'm trying to remember how far down the waterfront we might have been. we just felt that it was another thing, a total another, and very commercial, extremely commercial.
Were there a lot of artists in Southwest?
There were people with things they were making, and yeah, there were enough of them to have a festival and to have, well, you know, it was more like having a big picnic, maybe, put it that way. And it was for us. It wasn't for the whole, you know, and for our friends and whoever wanted to come. It wasn't for the whole city. The mayor's idea is to make this a city thing, which is the point we're still fighting. How much of this is going to become really strictly a New York type waterfront or what? You know, those are the issues that are facing us. And it's going to come, obviously, with all these buildings that are going on. So things are changing, but we're losing our character. And of course, it takes people that you know, are invested. Time changes people. I mean, like you take, what's his name? Who was the first president of the Southwest Neighborhood Assembly? Lives over here on G Street.
Mr. Reeves? No, he was an ANC commissioner.
No. Oh, heavens. I know them so well. Anyway, and he had, that Southwest Neighborhood Assembly had him come and talk about what it was like when he started. That he was a good person to talk to.
Oh, you're talking about Neil Pierce?
Neil Pierce,
Sure.
yeah. Yeah. And what's his name also? God, I don't know what I'm doing with people's names these days. But anyway, there are a couple of people around that really were the beginning forces for what happened here. So it's just, obviously it's going to change. And to me, the issue is how do we help it change when it does change in a way that we don't lose all our uniqueness or character. I think what you're doing here is very much a value. And if you can involve young people in things like this, I think that's great. But you have, you know, because we don't have places where young people can go other than the recreation center. And most of the time, from what I gather, and I'd like to know these fellows' ideas, the recreation center is a place where you do sports more than anything else. Do you do anything else there? Do you have any discussion groups? No. You have no groups where you can talk about jobs or anything like that. Go ahead.
Some of them, they ask you how they give you a job, and sometimes they help you, like, they can tell you to come out there every day and help you with your homework after school.
You do have that. Yeah. Is that meet in the old, over there on I Street? Is that the group that does the homework, or is it right there in the
you're talking about the
in
new
Greenfield? Huh?
The new King Greenleaf Rec Center.
Oh, they do help you with the homework? Oh, good. They do help with the homework? Good. Who's doing the help?
Like the staff there that work there, or they have sometimes they have some counselors come in.
Good.
Stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Tell us about the reality of race in Southwest. How do you think that that has been played out here? Do we have concerns?
Race will always be with us.
How is it? What's the configuration in Southwest for how we've struggled with this?
Oh, boy.
For example, the Southwest Neighborhood Assembly, people here are very proud that this was the product of the merger of a prominently African American civic organization and a predominantly white civic organization. And these folks came together as the pioneers of the new Southwest to really create an integrated environment.
Yeah. Okay, and who were those folks? Are they still alive?
I don't know the name of the organizations. I've
okay.
got to clarify that.
Okay.
But there were two distinct organizations, and
Which
they
I'm
came
not
together.
surprised at, right. Because, and there were groups, I'm sure, like the male group that's still active. But the, I don't know what happened to once the amalgamation, but people die or move away because there were some very strong leaders from the housing. Mrs. Her son was you know the guy that was head of David Brewer.
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer was a force. Miss Hill I think his name was Hill, was a force. The one you had the funeral for here was a force. You remember who died? She died and she had children.
Bobby?
Bobby.
Bobby
Yeah,
McMahon?
yeah.
Yes.
There were certain women that were taking leadership then.
Uh-huh.
They're not there anymore.
Right. Phyllis Martin?
Yeah, and Phyllis Martin. I don't know where she is today.
She still lives in James Creek.
Really?
She's getting on.
Yeah, well, she had
doesn't get around
yeah,
very well
right,
anymore.
right, yeah. See, well, people age and so forth. So there hasn't been anybody to take their place. I mean, that kind of working with. And so that's part of what happens with the racial thing, the loss of leadership people. And things have happened to the settings because, people have moved away. Their children have grown up and they're not taking on a leadership thing.
Right.
It's very sad what happens in terms of housing, because it's always a struggle of some sort. The collaborative is there, blah, blah, blah. What I think on this side where people have more money
Excuse me, let me interrupt.
invested.
I interrupted your thought.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that there were two forms of way people relate. One is I'll do for you. Another one is how do we do it together? It's harder to do it together apparently, and people are off on these different tangents. One of the tangents that I think we're off on this side of town has to do with the threat of buildings that will just change the whole community. The developers, there's going to be a building in that parking lot right over here. There's a lot of building going on down M Street. That M Street, yeah. That changes the whole character of the neighborhood. The big structures. And like someone said to me the other day, if you want to be sure that that affordable, some of this housing that these developers want to build is going to be open to other people with some kind of income, but you have to see what you can trade off, and they want you to trade off is higher buildings. They don't want to do just 8-story buildings, 9-story. They want to do 14-story buildings. So this is really very devastating. The thought that you have to deal like that with all this development that's going on. And it's almost like who can really speak for anybody, even when people go down to the zoning commission. It doesn't sound like when I used to go down there, we went down there about alcohol and about a lot of things. It doesn't sound that way. There's sort of a fixed mentality around here, and that people are not taking it, not being concerned, but they're concerned about things that would affect what's going to happen to us. And of course, that first plan that they had to cut through on 4th Street, we don't know what is. There's now 4 more developers. We don't know what the plan is. And what really is happening, as far as I'm concerned, is that they want to wear you down. Wear them down so we can do what we want to do.
The community is in a pickle here, in a sense, because as the mall and the failure of the mall expresses, there really aren't enough people here. There's not enough of a market for even small businesses to stay profitable in this community. But the predominant tenor of the neighborhood seems to be to run against higher population density, higher elevations in buildings, extending that. But we've got some problems that we can't fix without developers, I guess.
Apparently.
I mean, whoever they may
Apparently.
be. We've got the old Randall School sitting there, and that project worked for a minute, and then the Corcoran supposedly has purchased the Randall School.
That's what I hear.
But now they're floundering in some of their plans. We've got so many things that need to be addressed.
Right.
As you struggled for such a long time with the Syphax School. Took a tremendous amount of time.
It's amazing that it ever got done.
And there are only 35 housing units or so over there. So Yeah, I mean, we have to fight real hard and long to get anything done.
Yeah.
The developers are going to come in here and bring in new people, higher income,
Yeah.
single professionals, I suppose. The schools then are not going to be called upon to be important parts of the community because the new residents of Southwest don't have children. And so the city seems to be comfortable with letting the Southwest schools close or decline or consolidate. Now there are only 2 elementary schools left. And Jefferson, now that they've closed Van Ness on the other side,
Yeah.
there's not even that. So how are we going to preserve some kind of civic identity in the midst of all of this change? And whether we like it or not, we're going to have to deal with the money people
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
coming here.
Yeah.
How, based on your struggle with Syphax and your work with the neighborhood assembly, how do you think it ought to be done? We as a community to organize ourselves and to draw our lines in the sand. How could the
Well,
neighborhood
you've
assembly?
got to have, no, I really do feel this. You have to have some influence on somebody who has power, I'm afraid. I really mean that. I mean, like, it's very hard to, for instance, the Planning Commission was supposed to, when it was under Altman, supposed to be having a certain philosophy about what you build and how you build it. Well, he's gone. People change in these administrations. So who do we have as an ally? Do we have any allies? You need some allies. Because even if when you try to get this community together, who are you going to get together?
That's a good question. Tell us.
Well, let me say, I hear you're trying to form a what is it? 5-finger kind of group, bringing together them. What are you doing?
The CDC?
Yeah, or whatever. No, I thought, no, well, let me put it this way. Ruth is now chair of the collaborative.
Right.
And then there's some other groups around here that she's trying to bring together to think about.
Yeah, yes, uh-huh.
That's not the same as,
There's a DC, Collaboration DC,
uh-huh.
if that's what you're talking about. The group
Yeah,
that
yeah.
came together to propose community benefits, the Community Benefits Task Force.
Well, that's a group of people. I don't know who they all are.
They're,
Southwest Neighborhood Assembly is
they're
not part
residents. Many of them are very active leaders in the neighborhood assembly.
of that. Uh-huh.
A couple of them have been ANC commissioners.
Uh-huh.
And for somehow or other, when their work became public, there was an outcry from a small handful of folks who resented and challenged their legitimacy at all. There's a schism within
Yeah,
the leadership of the community.
Yeah.
And that's another issue. Southwest seems to be wrought with conflict. The neighborhood assembly is often a shouting match. The ANC meetings are these shouting matches. People are yelling at each other, frustrated with each other, defending very narrow or very specific interest at the expense of hearing other concerns. How do we get out of this?
That's why I say you really need somebody who can bring people together. And it could be the councilman, it could be somebody in the administration. Because if you don't get to this administration, I think it's a lost cause. And you don't get
The
to
Williams administration.
when it goes, the next administration. You know what I mean? I think you have to get to the next administration, which is coming up in January. Got a plan for that.
Right. So it's about electing a good mayor,
Yeah.
good council people.
Yeah. Yeah, and a good council member. It does. I mean, you got to have somebody that has seen some of the values you want to preserve. I think, as I said, we're going to, as this person said to me, you have to do some trade-offs. They're going to have to build higher buildings. And so we may yell and scream about them, but they're going to go up. Land is, if we can prevent, if we can, it seems to me it's awfully hard to even get a percentage of anything. And people, all they want is money. People are buying in our place because they can figure, I can sell this at another higher price. I mean, it's all about money. The whole damn thing. It makes you kind of mad because that's what got a good deal here. Now I can turn it around and go someplace else.
Right.
But I do believe in bringing coalitions. I believe in coalitions. And I believe that you have to get the coalitions together and share the power. That's a nice thought. But maybe what happens, say, somebody's over here planning something, somebody over here is planning, got to bring them, the key groups together.
Right.
Sit down together. And see if we can get any unanimity, Right. We tried, let me put it this way, the Youth Task Force did some of that just for the youth. When there was something going on, there was a charter school in the building, in Waterside Mall.
Yes.
There was a school. They spent a lot of money, the government spent a lot of money setting up a computer outfit where kids could go and learn about the computer. I don't know what the hell happened to that. United Planning Organization was in on it, and we were working with them. We met with them. We met with the Department of Recreation people. Okay? And everybody promised, yeah, we'll keep this going. And where is it now?
I don't know.
It's gone. I don't know where it went, but it was, and it was so modern. It really was. They put a lot of money into that building. Of course, I guess when EPA took off, that was almost the end of it. But really, there are things that get started that makes you very discouraged. But I still think if you can corral some new leadership. There's a man I met recently. I bet there are several people in our complex that might be useful, helpful, with the thoughts about planning. How do you plan, but you really have to be clear about your objective. You can't do everything. What do you want? I mean, what do people want? How clear can we be about that? That's hard. Okay, I'm through. Yeah.
And let me ask
Any community.
their community.
I know. Any community you live in is your community.
Yeah. You can just leave that there.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, really? Oh,
put it under your own.
okay. All right.
Either way.
I got it.
How do you feel about the presence of the public housing projects, Greenleaf, James Creek, and Syphax? There are a lot of folks there who are really scared that the developers in the city and the federal government or whoever is going to come along soon and close these places. What's your position on all of that?
My position, what do I think is going to happen? I don't have a
What do you
position.
want to happen?
I think what's going to happen,
First of all, what do you want to happen? For that sector of the community.
okay, I won't be pessimistic. I'm pessimistic. If they could have a voice and speak for themselves and try to see if they could get in on the planning for themselves, that would make sense to me. They can't wait for somebody else to do it. Somehow, as long as you're in a position of having to wait on the other, I think the world has gotten so, hungry for things and getting their own way. It's tough. It's a very tough world. And unless there was some way of planning. See, I have my first thought is this. I mean, I'm not being very realistic maybe, but my first thought is, I wish the people who live there could see a future for themselves somewhere else.
Somewhere else?
Yeah.
Why?
Because in the end, it's going to get wiped out. Look, are they building that stadium? Next thing you know, they're going to say, we don't have enough room for the cars. Some foolishness is going to come up. So in the long run, it's going to disappear, I think. I mean, I'm being very honest. I hate to say that. But I would like to see people say, well, I'm going to take charge of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to plan for my family. I don't have to be here forever. I really mean that. You see, because if you think about public housing as a place that you have to live, like take the guys who've made it in the entertainment world. They may have lived in public houses, but they got out. It's like you have to get out, or you have to see some way of getting out. You really do.
But we're so transitory and so used to moving, sometimes we don't realize what we sacrifice when we do that. We sacrifice home. You know, there's something about the place where you grow up. It's your home. Mm-hmm. And at least to have the option to go home or to stay home, mm-hmm. Don't you think that's an important public virtue or public objective? Mm-hmm. That everyone should be entitled to that possibility? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because it can go either way. Yeah. At this point. Yeah. It could go one way or the other. The folk who live in those communities today could be integrated into the community, mm-hmm. or excluded from the community by all the political and economic forces that we see creeping in now. How would you suggest that it could be done, perhaps? How you in all of your work, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. with the Urban League, for example, you understand how organizing happens.
Yeah.
What do you think the nuts and bolts of Southwest getting organized to preserve itself, mm-hmm. if you had to put it that way?
Okay.
How would it be done?
Leadership from the community coming together. Who's coming together from the housing? Mm-hmm. And seeing a common goal, trying to realize a common goal. You can't just plan for people. People have to plan with something and with others. And you can't, that's what I mean by, I wish I could see a sense of organization coming out of the housing people. And like I said, the people who used to be leaders, they're gone. I don't know who the leaders are up-and-coming leaders.
Just put that under your arm.
Yes, right, under my arm. Okay, yeah.
See, today, one of the things that in just the last few days, one public gathering, at least in this, mm-hmm. community, has, mm-hmm. been around the issue of crime, mm-hmm. and violence. Specifically, I think a lot of folks are concerned about youth violence, mm-hmm. about public assaults and robberies, mm-hmm. and things, mm-hmm. like that. People don't feel safe walking the streets, mm-hmm. still. These kinds of discussions usually serve as a pretext for a top-down solution.
Right.
How, in the context of this division within the community of those who feel unsafe, mm-hmm. and those who feel marginalized, mm-hmm. Like they don't have any choice but to knock somebody up over the head, mm-hmm. to get a few dollars, how can that conversation happen? How are we going to get the homeowners in this community who want to feel safe to be willing to go the extra mile and negotiate and integrate, or however you want to talk about it, with those they feel as the problem? It really is a class, and in a certain degree it's a race.
Yeah, I'd like to know what the boys think. Because, for instance, if you want, there are people making money in the housing by selling drugs. Could they make money any other way?
Say it again.
Could the people who are showing entrepreneurial skill by selling drugs, could they see themselves making money any other way? I think you have to answer that. I can't answer it.
What do you think?
There's a hand back here.
Go ahead.
To make money, I used to go to the gas station, Safeway, just pump gas and help people with their bags to their car.
Yeah, which is good. But how could that become, is there anything that could become a business, in a sense, that pays off? Okay? Like you know how to pump gas. What do you, yeah.
Go door to door and cut grass,
That's one, yeah.
wash cars.
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah, in the winter, I used to shovel people's yards. Or me and my brother would just draw pictures on shirts and sell them to people.
Did you? Okay, that's a business. That's a business that could be expanded. You see, there's something that can be expanded and some not. In order to cut grass or go door to door, you have to stay within, unless you have a car, you have to stay within a certain, community. But if you have an idea, well, I could do shirts, and know that there are different places where you can go sell shirts. That's another matter. Like, for instance, who did you sell your shirts to?
People around the community.
Yeah, see,
At
number.
the subway stations.
Okay, you did? Did you ever go to Eastern Market? Okay, see, they have tables out there on Saturdays, and maybe you have to pay a certain fee to get into that little market, but that's a marketplace. Where the other marketplaces, one could take things that one has made and see how much one could sell. It's like that's good to know that you have something that is saleable. There aren't, I don't know how you do with the lawn cutting. Do you get much?
$10, $15.
Yeah, but you don't make enough to support yourself, see, or your family, right? If you save it, yeah, but you have to live too.
But you got to have a career.
Yeah, you need
You
to
got to have more
develop.
than just an opportunity to make a buck here,
Yeah.
this minute.
Yeah.
You got to
Well,
have a skill. You got to have education.
Yeah.
You got to.
Well, yeah, but you see, as you see that, what I would like to see is that we pick up on things like this and have some people help kids see how they can grow it. You can't do it alone. But you need someone with some entrepreneurial experience and come and meet with you and help you with those things, help show you how you can grow it. You could do this because right now you don't have to support you. Wonderful. You don't have to support yourself totally. But that's where you have to start. You have to start with, I want to learn how I could grow this idea I have, this business, yes. And we on the other side of so-called track could look for the experts to bring to you. Go ahead.
Sometimes we used to get paint buckets, sticks. You take it downtown and sit down and drum on them.
Oh yeah.
You used to come past and
Put some money, yeah. Yeah, and like we used to have lemonade stands. There are things that you could do. But what I feel your families need to get a concept of is how can we work toward being able to support ourselves. Yes, we may need help. We may have health problems. But how can we move a little bit out of the total dependence on the government? That's a problem. I mean, because you never get enough to do anything from the government that you might want to do. You get just subsistence. But if you really want to do something more than subsistence, you have to be able, and that's what I mean by moving out. If we can help you move out in your thinking and in your practices, maybe you can be leaders yourself to the next generation. What I'm really saying, because you all now are, you're working in this area with Mr. Hamilton, but you may find yourself, as I said, you have certain interests, you may have certain skills you'd like to develop. Right now, I don't know what schools you're in. What are your schools offering you? What schools are you in? Where do you go? Wilson? Yours? Who? Jefferson. And Roosevelt? Wilson, okay. Do you see any classes in that school that you could eventually take that have to do with being an entrepreneur, if that's what you want to be? No particular. Well, see, I don't know. You have to know what's going on in some of these schools. Because another thing that the parents could organize around is the request to the school board or to the superintendent that the schools offer more training in areas that will allow people to come out and get a job. You know? I mean, there is something to be said for being able to be saleable.
Vocational training. You're
Yeah,
talking
well,
about. And that's pretty much been lost in the
Yeah,
D.C. public school
Yeah.
curriculum.
yeah, well, you don't have to, they may give it a different name now. Don't even have to be called vocational, because sometimes that's been woodworking. You know, I don't know. But something, schools that offer you the challenge of learning something that you come out of there with a saleable skill of some sort, or a knowledge that will help you develop. Because I'm too old to believe that there's one answer. I've been through many ups and downs with people in their lives and my own life. I'm too old for that, so I don't see a panacea. In other words, I don't see a magical something. But I do feel that the one thing that we often admire other people for, like right now the United States is saying, look at the Chinese, they're taking our stuff away from us. They're training all these kids to be this, that, and the other thing. Look at the Indians, they're doing this and that. Well, hell, what are we doing for our kids? And that's where the demand should come from your parents. When you want to organize about something, you want to get your kids ready for this new world. This is a new world. And communications is a big deal. Do you like working with a computer? Do you know anything about working with it? Do you know how to, do you know the things that they're now doing in terms of graphics? Go ahead.
I just know that when you look at stuff, some things that are made, those things say made in China.
That's right. That's what's going on. They get made cheap over there. But still, those people are getting the skills, getting paid for those skills. And that's like saying to Americans, well, and the big question is, well, what are we training our people for? Huh? To fight in the Army. Well, and also to get training in the Army, though. There are a lot of kids going in the Army because they figure they're going to get some of the stuff they didn't get here. You know, if they live. I don't think of only as getting killed, because there are still people that go in and get a profession out of it. So everybody doesn't get killed, but
We're just kind of, we're going to only have a couple
Yeah.
minutes left.
Yeah.
Just kind of sum up, you think where Southwest is going. Where's Southwest going to look like in 25 years?
oh, brother.
I know we've heard a little of your pessimistic answer. Whatever it is, just tell us what do you think the future is?
Well, Southwest is a beautiful community, and its potential is great. The people who get to live here are very pleased with themselves once they get to live here. But it's going to take money to live here. For sad as it is, terrible prices. Although they will go down after a while. But it takes money to live in a community that says, well, we're going to be this and that. It is pleasant to live here. And the reason that, even though you talked about the concept of home, we like to have a home to come home to, we have to keep building homes that are viable and help people move on, and help people adapt to the changes. That's what I'm concerned about. There are so many changes going on. I can't use a computer like you could use a computer. I am all thumbs when I have to use these, some of these new techniques. I have to learn it. But you don't. You're there now. You can learn those things. And don't forget that. You can learn to manipulate all this science stuff that's coming our way. And you can learn about jobs that you can have. It doesn't have to all be computers, you know. More people are going to be needed for caring for others as our population ages. Owners and